the thing that I get most frustrated with is I think that what is happening with Trump right now, like we're all pointing to, well, he got convinced or maybe his mental acuity. This is who he's been from the fucking get-go. Like when people say like, well, I'm upset with him now and I regret my vote because he lied. He lied the minute he came down the escalator, through like, oh, it's the largest inauguration that's ever been seen through history. Like there is nothing fundamentally different about his decision-making process or about the manner in which his ADD pushes him from lurching from one endeavor to another. It's like when we said he's a movie trailer president. He doesn't have the stamina to sit through the whole movie. He's just the trailers. And right now, the Iran war, hey, the trailer's done. Now what do I do? So now I just got to leave. Like, it so frustrates me that all these people on the right are like, oh, this really pushed me over the edge. And like, this is the same fucking thing we've been dealing with for 12 years.
Jon Stewart made those comments on his weekly show podcast, and I wanted to share what he said with you because I found it incredibly cathartic and thought that you would too, because a lot of us feel the same way. Like me personally speaking, I simply can't welcome these people into the fold with a bear hug. I don't have the patience to coddle newly regretful Trump voters and give them flowers for finally acknowledging what sane Americans saw 12 years ago, because Trump is still the same person he's always been. The only difference now, however, is that he is very clearly in cognitive decline and he doesn't have any grown-ups around him to stop him from doing the stupidest things. So the fundamental difference between his first and second term is that now the filter is gone. We're getting Trump in his purest, most unadulterated form, and he's a little bit too bitter for some people who were fine with the watered-down version of Donald Trump. And we all know how much conservatives love the taste of their own medicine. But, take Marjorie Taylor Greene as one example. She had a really strong reaction to this unhinged tweet that Trump made on Easter, where he says Tuesday will be Power Plant Day and Bridge Day, all wrapped up in one. In Iran, there will be nothing like it. Open the fucking straight, you crazy bastards, or you'll be living in hell. Just watch. Praise be to Allah. Now, this is out there, even for Donald Trump, of course, but he's basically threatening war crimes, and now he's saying, oh, actually, we do want the Strait of Hormuz open. But Marjorie Greene responded to that saying, on Easter morning, this is what President Trump posted. Everyone in his administration that claims to be a Christian needs to fall on their knees and beg for forgiveness from God and stop worshiping the president and intervene in Trump's madness. I know all of you and him, and he has gone insane, and all of you are complicit. She later adds, our president is not a Christian, and his words and actions should not be supported by Christians. Now, I guess I don't know what to do with that condemnation. What am I supposed to do with it? Like, I'll take it, but his Easter tweet is unhinged, yes, but she's only able to see that this man isn't very Christ-like now because the trance broke after he treated her the same way that he treated Muslim members of Congress like Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib. Grab him by the pussy and mocking a disabled reporter and, being complicit with Saudi Arabia's genocide in Yemen, that all just flew under the radar. She didn't get a single sense that, hey, maybe this guy isn't very Christian, but after he treated her the way that he treats Muslim members of Congress, all of a sudden the blinders came off and she was able to see what the rest of us saw. Shocker, right? But back in March, she even agreed that Trump would manufacture a crisis or use Iran as a justification to cancel elections, even though she was one of the biggest boosters of his claim that the election was stolen from him back in 2020. But all of a sudden, she's seeing that he's not so Christ-like after finding herself on the wrong side of MAGA. Yeah, and Marjorie Greene is, more of a high-profile example, but the regular rank-and-file Republicans suddenly turning on him, they're also doing it because now his policies affect them personally in a negative way. They couldn't care less when immigrants and LGBTQ plus people were bearing the brunt of his attacks, but now that his policies are directly impacting them in a negative way, all of a sudden, all of his other flaws are coming into focus for the rest of these folks. His Iran war is causing gas prices and grocery prices to surge, and economists are sounding the alarm about how we're headed directly towards a recession. And it's not like things were going great before Trump's illegal war with Iran, thanks to his tariffs and tax cuts for the rich. But if you were one of the people supporting him just getting by, you can't ignore the effects of what he's doing, especially at the gas pump. And we talked about this video before in this channel, but this was a message to a woman from Pennsylvania who voted for Donald Trump. She was asked, like, what would you say to Trump? And this is what she said.
You are a worthless pile of
And you voted for him how many times?
3 times. That was my bad. Apparently, I'm an idiot.
She realizes she's an idiot only now, 12 years into the Trump era, because he's doing something that unquestionably affects her in a negative way. Go figure. But to be clear, not all diehard Trump supporters are going to turn on him, even if his policies do affect them personally, because there's still a lot of Americans who will gladly cut off their noses to spite their faces. I have a family member who looked to be kind of wavering after the GOP passed its big bullshit bill because they were worried about losing Medicaid, and they probably will. But apparently they're more sycophantic now than before, even after the Epstein files and Iran war. So they're getting fucked over by Donald Trump in a major way, losing healthcare they desperately need, and now they are more loyal than ever. So I think that the regretful Trump phenomenon is a little bit overstated, to be honest, and it primarily consists of the more right-leaning independent people who just supported Donald Trump, because they didn't like the Democratic Party, and they had just enough brain cells to not go full cultist. Like, they supported Donald Trump, but they didn't fully drink the Kool-Aid. And the reason why his support is hemorrhaging these days, I think, is primarily because of independents who are now turning on him. Maybe they don't like Democrats, so they vote Republican out of lesser of two evils, but they voted for Donald Trump, didn't care what he was doing in his first term, and now that his policies are affecting them, now they're realizing, okay, this guy, he's terrible, he's got to go. I mean, Trump recently admitted that we can't help people in America because we have to spend money on war to bomb people in other countries. He actually admitted this on national television.
We can't take care of daycare. We're a big country. We have 50 states. We have all these other people. We're fighting wars. We can't take care of daycare. You got to let a state take care of daycare, and they should pay for it, too. They should pay. They have to raise their taxes, but they should pay for it. And we could lower our taxes a little bit to them to make up, but it's not possible for us to take care of daycare, Medicaid, Medicare, all these individual things. They can do it on a state basis. You can't do it on a federal. We have to take care of one thing, military protection.
I mean, he's just saying the quiet part loud at this point. So if you weren't fully entrenched in the MAGA cult, in that bubble, and you have the capacity for shame, you can't not see him say that and feel dumb for supporting him, especially because he's always been this way. And more importantly, the Republican Party collectively has always been this way. Do you remember what they were saying during Donald Trump's first term when they were talking about gutting the Affordable Care Act? It was shit like this.
Well, we're getting rid of the individual mandate. We're getting rid of those things that people said that they don't want. And you know what? Americans have choices, and they've got to make a choice. And so maybe rather than getting that new iPhone that they just love and they want to go spend hundreds of dollars on that, maybe they should invest in their own health care.
Right. And now that gas prices are higher, here's the new message from Republicans. As you're going to see, it's not so different.
I think right now, at least just kind of keeping a stiff upper lip. Maybe you take one less trip to Starbucks, and so that gas goes a little further until this thing is over and these gas prices come back down again. Let's just try to be patriots about this.
The list goes on and on of all the things. Our gas tax automatically increases in New Jersey. And by the way, so do our tolls and our fees automatically increase. All of that. Now we're going to have on top of that, and I'm talking to my folks in New Jersey, my state, you better just keep breaking your back and working hard, maybe get yet another job.
How on brand for Republicans. Now, the first comment came from Michelle Tafoya, NFL reporter turned Republican candidate for the U.S. Senate in Michigan. And the second comment came from Jeff Van Drew, who is a Republican congressman. Now, he claims that he was taken out of context because he was blaming gas prices in New Jersey on their gas tax. Not the Iran war, of course. And he claimed that he was saying Americans would only be forced to break their backs and get second jobs because of their state's sanctuary city policies. So he's blaming immigrants for the gas prices and not Donald Trump. And, because of that, don't quote him, otherwise you're taking him out of context. Ironically enough, they have to break their backs and get second jobs because his party decided to shift the tax burden to the working class instead of, say, billionaires and large multinational corporations. And I want to show you what I mean by that. So the CBO just released their budget overview for 2025. Now, our overall budget is $7 trillion and our revenue is $5.2 trillion. So of course, we have a fiscal deficit. But $2.7 trillion of our federal budget comes from individual income taxes, including payments to Social Security, Medicare, and whatnot. That's you. That's what you pay. Now, when you look at revenue from corporations, it is just a tiny sliver at $452 billion. Oh, and that $195 billion that comes from customs and duties, that's because of Donald Trump's tariffs. You pay that too. Now, if you look at the overall trends, it's been about the same for a very long time now in this country, with corporations getting a tax cut in 2017 after Trump passed his tax cuts for the rich for the first time. By the way, notice how your individual income taxes stayed the same, whereas the corporations got a higher tax cut. That tells you who that bill affected. But I mean, even after the CARES Act was passed, as you can see, corporate taxes went up a little bit, but individual taxes rose significantly. Now, yes, that includes income taxes from rich people and billionaires too, but that's if and when they're generous enough to pay any taxes at all. But they certainly don't pay the same percentage as you do because their wealth comes from the value of their company more so than salaries. And since we don't have a wealth tax in this country, they're able to get away with paying a comparatively lower rate, if anything at all, than the rest of us. Now, I say all this to say that Republicans are choosing to let the rich get richer at your expense. You can see that in this budget released by our own government. And this isn't some new phenomenon. Every single Republican president, from Reagan to Bush, they did the same exact thing. They cut taxes for the rich while cutting social services for you and shifting the tax burden onto you. And they claim that the wealth is going to trickle down. And whenever you get a little bit angry about the fact that your wages are stagnation, you're working longer hours for lower wages, they try to distract you by dangling keys in front of your face, and the keys being immigrants or trans people, something to get mad at instead of the rich people who bribed politicians to rig the system against you. My point is that even the more independent-minded people who recently regretted their votes for Donald Trump, they were also blind, not as blind as the Trump sycophants, but they were blind to what everyone else saw decades ago, because Trump isn't an aberration. He is the logical conclusion to the fascistic, fundamentalist, pro-rich Republican Party, and nobody truly sees them for what they are until they're personally affected by GOP policies, after it's too late, mind you. So as uniquely terrible as Trump is, he really is the perfect avatar for the Republican Party. He's like a caricature of modern American conservatism who doesn't bother to mask his ruthlessness and profound stupidity. They're all the same way. It's just that he doesn't hide it, right? He has no filter. I mean, as hilarious as this is, nothing encapsulates the political moment more than Trump bitching about Biden's auto pen to children during the White House's Easter Sunday celebration. Just watch this shit. Like, this is peak Republican Party politics 2026.
Biden would use the auto pen. He'd have an auto pen following Joe Biden. He didn't sign. He was incapable of signing his name. So they'd follow him around with this big machine. You know what it was called? An auto pen. And he'd have the auto pen signed for him. He'd take the paper, hand it to his guys, they'd sign it with an auto pen, give it back. Not too big, right? Better to sign it instead.
I mean, that's America, 2026, folks. And I don't know if you heard it, but one of the kids said, "What?" when he brought up auto pen, because what are they supposed to say? They were all looking at him like this because they had no fucking idea what he was talking about, because they're children. And you would think that a father would keep it more lighthearted and ask them what they got from the Easter Bunny or if they found a certain number of eggs. But instead, he brought up his political opponents because the wheels are off the bus now and his brain is melting. And again, it speaks to the broader Republican Party because it just shows you how self-interested they are. They just want to make the rich richer, which includes them, and they don't give a fuck about kids. So it's just a perfect moment. It encapsulates everything about our political system and how unserious it is. And I've got to point out that that wasn't the only time when Trump invoked his political opponents, because when he wasn't talking about the war crimes he's going to commit in Iran, he was bitching about Kamala Harris, and the juxtaposition between what he was saying and the Easter Bunny just standing there awkwardly was just is perfect.
How did I do with the voters that do eggs?
Awesome.
Would you say 100% or 99%?
100%.
Did anybody in the egg industry vote for Kamala? A low IQ person. She's a low IQ person. Who's a lower IQ person, Biden or Kamala?
Even the Easter Bunny looked at the camera and was like, "Bro, are you fucking serious?" That should be a meme right there, because what do you even say? We are an unserious country. Trump is unserious, yes, but I mean, like, what does it say about us that this is the man who represents us. But I mean, that was just like a couple of moments that you've seen so far. At that entire event, he was on a fucking roll with banger after banger.
What do you say to Americans who are not a fan of the war?
They're foolish. And I hate to do it, but we're obliterating, and they just don't want to say uncle. They don't want to cry as the expression goes, uncle, but they will. And if they don't, they'll have no bridges, they'll have no power plants, they'll have no anything. I won't go further because there are other things that are worse than those two. And we might have, well, the thing, if I had my choice, what would I like to do? Take the oil. Because it's there for the taking. There's not a thing they can do about it. Unfortunately, the American people would like to see us come home. If it were up to me, I'd take the oil.
Mr. President, how would it not be a war crime to strike Iran's bridges and power plants?
Because they killed 45,000 people in the last month.
Plants could be a war crime.
I'm not worried about it. You know it's a war crime? Having a nuclear weapon. Allowing a sick country with demented leadership have a nuclear weapon. That's a war crime.
How is it taking care of the Iranian people if you're bombing?
Yeah, who you with? Who you with?
PBS.
Well, that's a radical left group of lunatics that you're with.
So can you tell us your lessons to children who find themselves in
Well, all of this is happening for their future, so they will be safe in years to come.
Yeah. But, you know, I would love to actually see that vapid shell of a human being look an Iranian child in the eye and actually say to them that their schools are being bombed for them, for their future. Like, imagine if another country bombed American schools and then justified it by saying, oh, don't worry, it's for your kids' future. It's for the future of American children. I'm sure that we'd be so grateful to the country that's bombing our schools. See, American children, they get to hunt for Easter eggs with the Easter bunny at the White House, while Iranian children have to grieve for their friends, and Palestinian children in Gaza get to carry baby dolls on gurneys instead of playing house with the baby dolls because bodies on gurneys is all that they know. But to the American empire, it's all worth it. All of these children suffering and dying, it's worth it just so we can maintain American dominance in the Middle East. I'm sure that all of these kids in the region who are affected by what we're doing are going to understand this when they're older. Yes, it was worth it for you to kill my fucking friends and bomb my school for regional hegemony. But to step back, our so-called president spent most of Easter Sunday justifying war crimes that he threatened to commit on social media. And when he wasn't being asked about that, he was complaining about his political opponents. And only now some Americans are questioning his Christian bona fides now that they've experienced his not-so-Christian policies firsthand. It just truly is amazing, right? So while people like Marjorie Taylor Greene and other former Trump cultists are shocked at what they're seeing, the rest of us see this and we're just tired because we've been putting up with this shit for a decade now. And quite frankly, I'm over it. I'm exhausted. I don't even have a reaction anymore to his dumb shit because even though it's horrifying, what do you expect? We've been dealing with this man for so long now. But that's not to say that the non-crazy Americans who warned Trump supporters he would be this bad aren't also coming to a different realization themselves. Because even though Trump is the perfect representation of Republican extremism, a lot of people are forced to grapple with the reality for the first time that Trump isn't just an ugly face to the Republican Party's hideous policies, but rather he is a face of the American empire. He is a symptom of a deeper sickness in America. He's an exaggerated version of the stereotypical American who only thinks about themselves and never ever considers how their actions affect other people. He is a mirror showing all of us what we look like and how the rest of the world sees us. I mean, his political success itself is a challenge from the universe to all of us to do better, because if he's the leader that Americans produced out of hundreds of millions of options, I think that says something about the rest of us. But if we really do want to course correct, we can start now by impeaching and prosecuting this motherfucker for openly broadcasting his intent to commit war crimes, or at least talking about it, which Democrats are not doing. But I mean, just think about how absurd this is. If you tweeted out your plans to rob a bank, you would get a knock on your door within an hour. But when the president of the United States threatens to commit war crimes, the best we get is some hope that maybe his inner circle are going to come to their senses and remove him via the 25th Amendment, since the betting markets have increased the odds of that happening, meaning that maybe somebody in the White House stands to gain millions of dollars by betting on it and then doing it. So when corruption is literally our best chance at accountability, I think that says something about our country, more specifically the system. So in conclusion, I agree with Jon Stewart on his broader point about regretful Trump voters, but the rest of us need to broaden our view to a system-wide analysis as opposed to just an individual one, because Trump is very obviously bad and anyone with common sense can see that. But when he's gone one day, the entire system that produced him is going to remain intact. And that is something that more Americans need to come to terms with if they ever want things to get better. Start looking at the system that produced Donald Trump. I'll tell you where to start. It's capitalism.
Mike is a total shitlib. Once he started shilling for the DNC, I stopped watching. So I definitely won't be hitting the subscribe button or turning on notifications by clicking the bell. No way. It's very sad, I know.